for the employees of the Knox County Sheriff's Office to order. It is 10 a.m. on September 24th, 2021. In attendance, we have
Jim Wright Jr., council member.
Jim Jennings, council member.
Gina Oster, chairperson.
John Marshall, alternate council member.
I want to thank everyone for being here, so we have a little bit of time to talk about some issues with the mayor and council and get some answers regarding the motion filed on behalf of the Knox County Sheriff's Office. I would like to see if Mr. Jennings has anything that he would like to address before we get started.
Yeah, there are a few things in the charges for me to recuse myself that are not true. I don't do fundraisers. I do meet and greets. Most of the people I know, I wouldn't ask for money, but I do like them to meet candidates. Yes, I am politically active, mostly in the city, but to be honest with you, that's really, if you're not politically active, you probably don't get appointed to committees and councils and things. So, you know, they have to know you know what you're about. I've served this council for 5+ years. I have a few more months to go. And my sole goal when I accepted this position and swore in uphold is that that I would protect the working men and women, that we had fair hiring practices, and that we would keep the political arena off to the side. I've been accused of supporting Lee Trammell. Lee Trammell has been my friend for many years. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be fair in any decision. He knows that. There's a photograph in there, in this packet that has Roy Cruz, myself, Justin Biggs, Chief Biggs, and J.J. Jones. That photograph was made, and this is what I'm saying, when you don't have all the facts. Roy Cruz is a tireless worker for the Epilepsy Foundation. He is a friend. And his wife passed away, his mine did, and he was in depression. He suffered Hodgkin's, so we called him and try to get him, you know, laughing and get him moving, get him out of the chair, which is the same thing when my wife passed away. The first person to knock on my door was Lee Trammell. And he's a good friend, but I've spent my life. I'm 79 years old. I promised my son I couldn't leave him millions of dollars, I would leave him a good name. So, the politics used to be fun. We used to sit around, Democrats, Republicans, you win some, you lose some, but you don't carry that over. And that's so vindictive that when you're against somebody, you try to destroy them. And I've had friends for 20 years that you try to put back together. They're friends with somebody else over an election. There'll be another election. There'll be another sheriff. Even at best, if this one goes in favor of Mr. Spangler, 4 years, there's another sheriff. But these employees are career people. And that's what the American system does. It's not about the sheriff, it's about the employees. So that's my opening statement. I read through most of this stuff, and you can shape that. We're at a lunch table with half Democrats, half Republicans. We have good discussions. Usually I'm on the short end of it, I'm outnumbered, but we leave it there. If you're in elections, you know, but my sole focus is that if you have aggrieved people, we're gonna hear the grievance and let the facts speak for themselves. We haven't had, I'm being prejudged on something I hadn't even heard one thing about. So I hope that this thing will go, that both sides will be heard, and if the person that ruled against, he has the option of going to Chancery Court. And So that's my stance. It's always been about the employees, never about Sheriff Jones. My first term was under him, never about, Sheriff Spangler. I don't know Sheriff Spangler well. He's a quiet man, and, I've been accused of, chairing this, council with a Lee Trammell hat on. That's as false as anything. Did I have a Lee Trammell hat? Sure. I've got 200 hats, and if you're gonna make this case over a cap or think that I could be biased, you check with any friend I have and ask if I would be fair in anything I do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm gonna give the opportunity if, Mr. Valiant would like to speak, and then Mr. Prince, and then I have, some things that I'm gonna read into the record, because I feel like it's definitely important to be, official in the record, but it's also very important for Knox County residents to hear, some factual things that have not been put out, and that definitely need to be put out on this council. So, Mr. Valiant, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Only thing I would say, Madam Chairman, is I would like to speak in response to, Mr. Prince, if he has anything to say. Basically, I don't have a whole lot of play in this. I wanted to file a written response to this, motion that Mr. Prince filed, just to have something on the record. I believe, at least for now, I would rest on what my response has to say, and if I think I need to say something else, I will, and, if Mr. Prince talks.
Okay. Mr. Prince, would you?
Thank you.
I would like to reserve comment after you read what you had to say in the record, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm prepared to go forward with why I believe there are conflicts of interest, and why the two that I have pointed out should not be on this tribunal that is to be fair and impartial. As to hearing the cases against our sheriff, Knox County's sheriff, Tom Spangler, but as an officer of the court, the state of Tennessee, in the federal court system, in the United States District Court, Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court, while I'm approved as counsel, I must restrain myself. And after almost 40 years of serving and representing the interest of numerous sheriffs and hundreds of police officers and detectives who have rights to a fair and impartial tribunal, I must state that we have a hearing in Chancery Court Monday, and the Chancellor at that time will decide if this case will be thrown out based on the law, or if it's premature at this time to raise it. And if he does, he can do several things, and he can remand it back here for a hearing, which we are ready to try. I would respectfully request that Jim Jennings and Gina Oster file a written response to my formal request to have them removed from hearing cases against Knox County Sheriff. Tom Spangler, who the citizens of Knox County elected to be their sheriff, deserved this. And this tribunal owns it to give a fair and impartial hearing. I do not want to proceed with what you have called a notice to discuss my filing. That's totally inappropriate. In my 40 years of practice, I've never filed a formal pleading and then have the parties want me to talk about it and get into something like Jerry Spangler. Or what are the rules here? Who's going first? Who's going second? Do y'all get to interrupt when I talk? What are the rules? What are the mayor and council rules? Where are they that gives you the authority to do what you just did? To notice me down here to talk about pending cases, pending litigations, and why y'all shouldn't be on the board. You have spoken to the press, and that's inappropriate because you cannot comment on pending litigation. You cannot comment on pending tribunals, which may affect the outcome of the hearing. You can't do it, but you did. And you told the press, I'm not backing down. I've already preformed my opinion. And you told the press, and I have it all right here. We're gonna have lengthy discussions with Mr. Prince. Okay? And you told the press some other things, which I will read into the record. And I'll let the people in Knoxville know what's going on. Okay? You won't listen to the law department. You won't listen to their advice. And you ordered a hearing in the Dooley case, and you want the sheriff to give a public automobile to her for her private use. That's what the affidavits of the former sheriff said. It was for her private use. It was not to be used in her duties as a public. That has serious consequences. Tax consequences. Things that y'all haven't thought about or heard. There are serious consequences also in the other cases coming up because they have committed, in the sheriff's opinion, in the opinion of the comptroller, in the opinion of Knox County, that they are guilty of crimes. I want a mediator, I want a hearing officer who understands the right of incrimination, the consequences of what you all are doing to these people, or not you all, but what they're doing themselves. Who's behind it? Who's driving it? And I'm going to expose it. Now, I'm commanded to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And that's why I must prostrate myself on the altar of mercy and tell you all to get a hearing officer in here. A hearing officer who understands all that. A Bob Gibson, a Sterling Owens, a John King, a Bill Vines, a Heidi Marcus, Lynn Fugan. Somebody understands. But for you to notice me here, to talk about this stuff that's improper, unethical, and wrong, I filed a response. And you know what it said. And the people of Knoxville are going to hear what it said. I'm going to read it to the record. My motion to recuse if you force me to go forward at this point. These police officers have a vision and have a dream. But Tom Spangler, who's a good man, a righteous man, a quiet man, a thoughtful man. And that's what this country needs right now. We're at war. We're at war with the bad guys. And these are the good guys. And they want somebody there who can cover their back. And they want somebody who understands the rules and will abide by the rules. And politics must be taken out of the merit board. Must be. I have evidence and proof of certain things. And I don't want to get into it with you, Mr. Junior. This time, you served this country well. And I appreciate your service. But there's certain things I pointed out in my statement that I think are wrong. And you just gave two statements today that are wrong. but I'm not gonna get into it with you. I don't want these officers hurt. So what I'm asking for you to do at this point is to do what Mr. Jennings suggested the last time we were together. Let's put this off for another day and let the chancellor rule Monday. And then we can proceed accordingly. That's my request. Don't force me to go forward. Because if I do, the legal ramifications of that are that I may say something that might influence what the chancellor's trying to do Monday. I want you to take a moment and talk to your lawyer, Myers Morton. He's a good lawyer, he's a smart lawyer. And I want you to take a break and talk to him right now. That's all I gotta say at this point, but I'm ready.
Want me to respond?
Please. $420 members of the sheriff's department left in the last 3 years. Under Sheriff Spangler's term in office. It would seem to me that the sheriff should be more concerned about retaining employees than spending time fighting systems trying to protect these employees. What I have heard, what I've read, I should say, and heard in Mr. Prince's motion, or what he said here this morning, he filed a motion before the Knox County Sheriff's Office Merit System Council in Raymond Scott Moore, John Ivan Harmon, and Martha Dooley. So the motion was filed before this council, and in any system that I've been involved in, if you're gonna file a motion before that body has to hear it. This is an administrative body, and Mr. Prince has to exhaust his administrative remedies before he can get into court. And that's why one of the arguments that's gonna be heard probably on Monday and maybe in future hearings, talking about the exhaustion of administrative remedies. I have thoroughly read his motion for recusal, and what it appears to me is that Sheriff Spangler would like to have however many members of this council removed so that maybe he can influence the county commission to appoint people who would be more favorable to him, which of course could be attacked on the same grounds that they're trying to attack you on. I'm an officer of the same courts that Mr. Brent says he's an officer of. And I believe that this tribunal needs to move forward with these cases. Maybe it's proper that we put off the hearings until after the case is heard on Monday, and from what I believe there's going to be some future cases heard on the same issues in Chancellor Hagerty's school. I'm not sure Monday may be the end of it, but it may go even farther in the future. But this matter is before you all, for you to make a decision, and I think it's wholly appropriate for you to have a hearing or hear what Mr. Prince has asked you to hear. And that's the way I've read this, is he's asking you to hear his motion to recuse, because it's filed in this tribunal. So that's all I have to say right now, other than if you read the Knox County Code of Ethics, if you read your own policies and procedures, there is nothing included in any of the documents that govern this body that indicate
that any of you may have a conflict of interest. It's just not in there. Conflicts are clearly defined in those documents, and I'm pretty sure all of you have those at your disposal.
May I respond? Brother Valiant is right. I want there to be a hearing. And I want it to be conducted appropriately for all concerned. But now is not the time. I want a response in writing of your all's position. You owe it to yourselves and to the sheriff. But to tell me to come down here and start getting into an argument with you all, I cannot do. I want to so bad to address issues which I have outlined and we have prepared to address. But now's not the time. The time is after Monday when the judge rules, and then you all file a written response to your positions without going to the press, without going to the public, and give me the decency and respect and the sheriff to put it in writing so there's a record. Because see, I'm hired as a lawyer to build a material evidence to support what our sheriff has done. That's what I have to do as a lawyer for Tom Spangler. I have to produce a material evidence, because what's going to happen is the chancellor and the Court of Appeals are going to look at the record and say, you know what? Tom Spangler acted arbitrarily and capriciously. Or Tom Spangler did this for politics. Or the other courts are going to say, no, Prince produced material evidence against everything I have filed, against you two, and in these cases. Okay? That's what I'm supposed to do as a lawyer, and I'm going to do it. I'm just saying, stop. Wait till the chancellor rules, but then, like Tom said, let's have a hearing. And we can have the conflict of hearing before we hear the other cases at the time that's convenient with you all. But now is not the time.
Okay, I've done this for 46 years. I've been before a lot of administrative bodies and judges. I've never one time heard an attorney request an administrative tribunal, each member of it, to give a written statement on their position. I think that's wholly inappropriate. I've never asked for anybody to do it and wouldn't ask for anybody to do it. Now, when you hear this, I don't really care. At some point in time, we've got to get all these hearings out of the way, the motion to recuse, and all these, Martha Dooley and Scott Moore and Ivan Harmon and whoever else is been dismissed by Sheriff Spangler. I guess they didn't come to a conclusion at some point. That was probably sooner rather than later. But I think some of the things that Mr. Prince is asking you to do, I've never heard that before. I think it's inappropriate. And of course, y'all can do what you want to do. It doesn't matter to me, but I've just never heard that being done before.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Let me clear up a few, make a note while Mr. Prince was speaking. I actually spoke to Myers before the meeting started, so everybody understands that I spoke to my attorney. I'm able to read in the facts into this case onto the public record, which I will do. And I believe Myers told me that I have the right to do that as a chairperson. This motion was brought in front of this committee, And, it has information that questions at best my integrity and my character along with Mr. Jennings' character and Mr. Jennings' integrity. We do have a right to defend that. You don't have to speak about it, Mr. Prince, but we have a right to defend ourselves. And especially when there's information that's filed in a motion that includes me and my husband, and information about me that's incorrect. I do have a right to defend that. As a taxpayer, I am a taxpayer. I'm a citizen of Knox County, and I sit on this council for the officers, not for any sheriff. There are things that need to be put on the record because Knox County citizens need to know what's happening. This council has not said issues that's going on. We have not tried to play out Martha Dooley's case in the press like some have tried to do because it's inappropriate. There's not any employee in Knox County who would have a grievance, whether the sheriff's department or anybody else, that would want their case played out in the court of public opinion before they have a right to be in front of the council that they are due. And that is inappropriate, and it has happened, and it has not come from this council. And it will not come from this council. I'm going to, we have printed out, I have had Ms. Taylor print out documents, and if anybody would like a copy of them, you can email Ms. Taylor and she'll get those to you. I didn't have a printout for everybody. But there are issues that we've been dealing with as this council for the last couple of years. And the information, like I said, has not been out there. We haven't felt that it was appropriate. We've tried to do our job appropriately and professionally. Let me also state that I have nothing against Sheriff Spangler. Actually, Sheriff Spangler and I get along pretty well. I speak for myself. I won't speak for him. I don't speak for other people. This merit council is not about Sheriff Spangler. It wasn't about J.J. Jones. It wasn't about Tim Hutchison. It won't be about 25 sheriffs down the road. This merit council, in case people don't understand, and a lot of people in Knox County don't understand what the merit council does. It was developed to keep politics out of it because our men and women years ago were being harmed when new sheriffs were coming in. And anybody that's been around Knox County long enough knows that. And that's why this council exists. Let me also state, because this has been misprinted numerous times, that this merit council has nothing to do with the hiring or firing of officers. We don't tell Sheriff Spangler who to hire, we don't tell him who to fire. If there is a problem with the firing, a demotion, a move, the employee at that point then goes through the proper channels to get a grievance hearing in front of this council. So we are not stopping Sheriff Spangler from hiring anybody, and we're not telling him who he can fire. That is not our job. I also was accused of stopping efforts from getting employees over to the sheriff. If this weren't so serious, that would be laughable. This council does not do that. Ms. Taylor in her office is the one who takes the applicants. They do preliminary, what's the word that I'm trying to find? Sorry, I'm just fired up at this point. The interviews and background checks. And then they go to the sheriff. And that's what I'm about to read in here because that is misstated. Or a mistruth, whatever you want to call it. I don't know in legal terms what you call that, but I call it a mistruth. In 2018, when Sheriff Spangler took office, this office sent 106 applicants over to the sheriff's office. The Knox County Sheriff's Office hired 60 merit from September to October. In 2019, 356 applicants were sent to interview, and Knox County Sheriff Office hired 129. In 2020, 496 applicants were sent to interview, and Knox County Sheriff Office hired 176. In 2021 to current, we have sent 255 plus 10 patrol applicants, and for whatever reason, the sheriff's office chose not to interview them, and they have hired 93 so far this year. The merit has sent over a total of 1,223 applicants to interview since Sheriff Spangler took office. That is not somebody who's trying to stop employees from being hired. As Mr. Valiant said, and this is a huge issue, and it has been a distressing issue for this council. As of today, we have 422 employees who have left in 3 years. That's important for Knox County residents to understand. It's very important. Because we're spending a lot of time and money on all of this, and we need to figure out what's going on. I had Ms. Taylor also print off all the merit meetings from June 27, 2018 to June 23rd, 2021. In all requests from the Sheriff's Office and the HR Department, we have approved everything that has been asked of us. This includes new positions, changing positions, salary changes, rectifying salary disputes from the previous sheriff on 2 employees. So please explain to me how we're stopping Knox County Sheriff's Office from hiring and doing their job. A couple of weeks ago, we had HR come to us and ask us to lower the age to 18 to hire. I had on public record that I was not terribly comfortable with going to age 19, but we did. I was more comfortable at 20. I still felt like 19 was a little young for them to be in the jail, but we wanted to work with the Sheriff's Office because we knew what the situation was of trying to get new employees. The main concern is trying to keep them. Another issue has been between myself and Mr. Jennings. When I was appointed and approved by Knox County Commission, Mr. Jennings asked if there could be an issue with us serving on the council. I called David Booth, did my due diligence, and spoke directly to David Booth, and he assured me that there was no problem with me serving on this council. So I moved forward. No, it was David Booth. Yeah. So I moved forward. Let me talk about the grievance real quick, because that's been a major source of contention. That's where all this started, actually, around last March or April, if I'm not mistaken. I had Ms. Taylor pulled from 1992 to 2012. There were 12 grievances filed in 20 years. In the last 2 years, there have been 7. That's not an arbitrary number, that's a number that's factual and that's actually come through this council. I was also accused of trying to save myself because I'm running for Knox County Commission, and I tried to save myself and not have the county commission approve to remove someone who's running for office. I'm not a commissioner yet, so I'm not sure how I stop that. However, I will explain how that works. There was a council member on here a few years ago that ran for public office. Once he was elected to public office, he stepped down from this council. If I'm honored to be elected as Knox County Commissioner, I will do the same. But there is nothing in our bylaws or our rules stating that I cannot pull a petition and run for office on this council. Furthermore, at the meeting, Commissioner Kyle Ward is the one who brought up a substitute motion that I had no idea was happening until he began to read it. So I did not speak to any commissioner to stop this substitute motion. The substitute motion was voted down by commissioners, and hence this is why I'm still sitting here. So I'm not doing anything that breaks any of our rules or that's improper at this time. I will also state that I have given or taken no money from Sheriff Jones or Sheriff Spangler. I have not had a sign in my yard for either candidate, and I have not attended either candidate's kickoff. Nor would I, because in these bylaws and these rules, I'm not allowed to do that. so I don't. I believe it was also stated that I felt like that there was, I'm gonna make sure that I get it right, that I had an issue with the law department and the sheriff's office. I made it very clear to the then chairman of the commission, Larson J., when he decided to put a committee together that was formed last year, that I did have issues with that because the things that they were talking about were gonna water down the protection of the officers for this mayor council. Had nothing to do with any three of us, it had to do with the protection of the officers. I did feel like there was politics being played in that situation, and because I believe that once you get politicians involved in putting committees together and that kind of stuff, that there are issues that can happen. The reason that I made the comment was because that I felt as though when you are in a committee and committee members approve certain issues, items that are talked about, but no recommendation or approval comes out of that committee, yet it goes in front of full commission, and we were pulled down full commission about 8 times to fight for this. That is not appropriate at all, because the members of that committee did not approve any of the items that were brought in front of commission to be voted on. So as the chairman, yes, I fought for this committee because I stood in front of a judge and I took an oath to take care of this committee and to take care of the officers of Knox County, and that's what I'm doing. And I do it wholeheartedly, and I do it because I care about these men and women. Mr. Prince, I'm sorry that you feel like that you were brought down here and you were gonna be in a Jerry Springer show and you were gonna have a fight and all that kind of stuff. That wasn't what it was about. It was about us being able to defend ourselves and let Knox County residents actually know what's going on, because we are county residents ourselves and we're taxpayers. And my name is in a motion that you brought in front of me, and the information that's in here is not correct. And I was putting it on the record to make sure that it was right. And I have every right to do that per my attorney. I'm gonna say one more thing. We all three have careers. We all three have jobs. We do this at no pay, and we're okay with that. We took this on knowing that. This has become a full-time job for every single one of us. And we're okay with that. I'm not okay with my integrity and my character being challenged. And I will stand and defend it, just as I will stand and defend these employees who deserve the right to be heard in front of this council. And my question is, why don't you want them to have that? That's a good question.
Great question, can I answer?
Sure.
You say you got 7 grievances that have been filed, right?
Over the last 2 years.
Okay, well,
And, have those cases been resolved? Have those cases been resolved and had an amicable resolution for everybody?
A couple of the cases have actually not gone forward because the employees and the sheriff have spoken and they've worked it out.
Exactly.
No, I'm not asking.
Wait a minute,
I'm in
wait,
charge.
you raised it, now, wait a minute.
I'm in charge.
Yes, you are.
Then you,
And I asked to be responded to and not interrupted.
that was your question. My question for you to come up here
Yeah.
was, why do you not want these 3 people to have their day in front of us?
I want
Well, as to Moore and, Scooby and Ivan, whatever they have an absolute right to a hearing because they were terminated. I have no problem with them having a hearing. So that's misinformation and misunderstanding on your part.
Okay?
As to Ms. Dooley, the law is clear you have no remedy if you fine for her and say that car was part of her contract, and it was used for personal use, and the sheriff can't take that car and put it to
Well,
the officer.
there again, we're not getting into specifics in this.
You asked the question.
No, I just asked.
You asked about these three, and I'm gonna tell you about these three, ma'am.
You may sit down. You may sit down.
And what it says there,
You-
I may or may not, I'm not going to,
You-
you know, I heard, you asked the question, I'm gonna give you an answer. What you're doing, flies in the face of the law, flies in the face of the law department, and you don't care, because you're not listening to anybody. Now sit down,
You may take your.
second.
That wasn't Jerry's one, but, the last thing that I'm gonna say is, we will have a hearing on Monday. Hopefully this will be resolved. The reason that we had this today, because I did feel it was important to get this out into the public and correct information. And I also feel like it's important for officers to know that this council is over here to try to resolve issues that may not be able to be resolved in their office or in their situation. And that these three council members do this for them. And this has not been an easy last year and a half for us at all. And I think there's been a lot of inappropriate and unnecessary things said, motions filed, and it's unfortunate because there are a lot of issues that we could be working on trying to figure out how to get more officers into our department, how to keep our officers, how to benefit them the best that we can with pay, with benefits, with education. Everything that I had spoke to Sheriff Spangler about at the beginning when he came in his term. That really, we didn't have to do, but we wanted to do because we feel like it's that important for our men and women. But this is the route that's been chosen to go, and this is the route that we'll go. So I will, make a motion for, call a motion, I guess, for the recusal of, Councilmember Jim Jennings and Gina Oster. Do I have a motion? You probably need to do that.
For recusal
Yes,
or against recusal?
against recusal.
I make a motion against recusal at this point.
Against the recusal.
Against recusal. All in favor? Aye.
And
Unopposed?
that is for both of you.
That is for both.
You second his motion?
Yeah, I'll second it, you said there.
Okay.
And that's refusal for both Jim Jennings and Gina Oster. There's no more business in front of this council, we are adjourned.